Today is January 15th, 2025. My name is Rob Carter of Kalamazoo Right to Life, and this is Pro-Life Week. Well, today I'm going to hopefully finish what I started last time, my evaluation or assessment of the Biden presidency. And there were some things I just ran out of time last time, so I want to finish it off today. First off, I probably should have started this first last time, but the very first item should have been that Joe Biden should never have run for president in 2024. He should have, back in 2020 when he was running, or even right when he was elected, he should have announced to the American people, because of my age, I am not going to run for president in 2024. I will be a one-term president. I am here, to right the ship, because Donald Trump had destroyed the country, supposedly. And after 4 years, I'll be 82 years old, and I will hand the baton off to a new Democrat. And they will go through the primary systems and the debates and fundraising, and they and the Democratic voters, they will determine who will be the Democratic nominee in 2024. It might have been Kamala Harris, although I think she had some real problems right from the get-go. But he should have abandoned this idea that he was up to a second term. It's ridiculous after how poorly he performed in that debate. The Democratic leadership, the national media, they were covering for this guy. He had been in decline for years. And a lot of people already saw that. What happened in the debate was only confirmation of what we had already seen, that he was in decline and he could not handle another 4 years. So he should have. This is a huge failing, at least for me, that he didn't have enough moral integrity to announce, no, I will not run for president again. I will be a one-term president. A huge failing. And he set up his entire Democratic Party for the failure that happened back in November. It's his fault. Okay, number two, the issue of crime. Some people are saying crime is going down, but sometimes I have a hard time seeing it, and you're hearing on the news all the time about some horrendous rape or murder or some kind of a horrendous crime, and very often we're seeing the people who have been either arrested or convicted have come in our country illegally. They are this group of 8 to 10 million people who have come here illegally. And then we found out, just I think back in October, there were 18,000 illegal immigrants in the United States who have serious criminal records. And 13,000, I'm not sure if it's 13,000 on top of the 18 or 13,000 of the 18. But 13,000 illegal immigrants are here in the U.S., not under detention. They're here, who have been convicted of homicides in their home countries. Homicides. Now, it's true, many of them, maybe a lot of them, had come during the Trump years. And it's not all Biden's fault. That may be true. But we have now seen that Trump's going to remove these people as part of his deportation plan. Okay, let's move on to number three, COVID. Obviously that started in March of 2020 when Trump was president. But when Biden took office in January of 2021, he had the vaccines with him. He had the vaccines. And, what a blessing. But still, there were still more fatalities in 2021 than in 2020. I've got some numbers here. Back in 2020, 384,000 Americans died of COVID. In 2021, we had the vaccines, Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines. the number of deaths jumped to 462,000 deaths. And this is at a time when people were getting vaccinated in record numbers, by the millions, by the tens of millions. Still, more people died. And then you had the issue of mask mandates. And if you were a service member, if you refused to get them to either get vaccinated or to have a mask, you were severely punished. I'm not sure if you were drummed out of the service, but you were denied promotions, things like that. Schools remained closed in a lot of urban areas in 2021 because teachers' unions basically held school districts hostage by saying, we are going to remain closed. And the irony of the whole thing is, of all the demographic groups most or least susceptible to COVID were children, were young kids. The people who were most likely to get COVID and be severely sick were people in my age bracket. Senior citizens. I'm 70 years old. Senior citizens were more likely to get COVID than 9-year-old kids. But they kept schools closed, and the Biden administration really did not put their thumb down on these teachers' unions and forcing them to get back into the classroom. These kids, some of these schools were almost 2 years in remote learning, and it's been devastating for how the long-lasting effects that this has had on many children, students. And will they ever make this up? I don't know. But it was a travesty. It was criminal that the teachers' unions allowed this to happen, and the Biden administration, or the Department of Education, did not do anything about it. Okay. Or did very little to do that. Okay. On abortion, and this is the last item I'll mention. And I've talked before about, giving Cecile Richards the Freedom of Medal of Freedom, highest honor you can give to a civilian. If you're a service member, if you've done, something heroic beyond measure, you might win the Congressional Medal of Honor, which is the highest honor for a service member. But if you're a civilian, the Medal of Freedom is as high as it gets. And Cecilia Richards, the gal that led Planned Parenthood for a long time, she gets this award. Anyway, Biden, while he was president, announced, after having supported the Hyde Amendment for decades, he finally comes out and says, no, we got to get rid of the Hyde Amendment because we have to make sure that poor women can get their abortions funded by the taxpayers. That's what he supported. During his presidency, Biden did not support any restrictions, not one single restriction. And all his court appointments, to the federal courts, were all pro-abortion, including his one Supreme Court pick, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. And we have seen by her votes that she is a clear ideologue when it comes to reproductive rights. Okay, so I would just say this in closing about the Biden presidency, that Dylan Thomas poem, about going gently into that good night. He definitely needs to go gently into his good night. Good riddance to the Joe Biden presidency. He may not be the second worst like Bill O'Reilly pegged him, but he's clearly in my top 5 worst, or my bottom 5 worst presidents in U.S. history. Clearly in my bottom 5. Okay. I got this today from lifenews.com, a source I go to a lot. And I'll read from the article here. As thousands of pro-life Americans come to Washington for the 52nd annual March for Life, we will take up the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, announced Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Republican of South Dakota. He says that during a floor speech this morning, I believe. Or actually, it might have been last Wednesday. He was just identified as Wednesday. Quote, this vote will ask Democrats to answer whether a living baby born after an attempted abortion should be provided with medical care or be left to die. It shouldn't be a hard question, unquote. Thune previously introduced the Humane Care Act with Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma, who is the newly elected Republican Conference vice chair, who will also reintroduce this Born Alive Survivors Protection Act in the 111th Congress. The bill passed the House in January 2023 by a near party line vote of 220 to 210. Only one Democrat, Representative Henry Cuellar of Texas, voted in favor. One Democrat, Henry Cuellar. And I mentioned before, back during the beginning of the Carter years, the early 1990s, there were around 120 Democrats who were pro-life, who were endorsed by pro-life organizations for re-election. 120. And now there is only one. And he's not 100% with us, but at least he's with us on some pro-life issues. So good for him. So we'll see how this bill pans out. It'll pass in the House because the Republicans, the pro-life majority is in the House. But in the Senate, will the Democrats, who have been saying for the last 2 years, we want to get rid of the filibuster, will they hold to that standard and not filibuster this Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act? Mark my word, they will filibuster this bill because abortion is a sacrament to a lot of these Democrats. They hold close to the idea that women have all the rights and babies have no rights. With that, I'll let you go, and I'll see you next time.